what trades that have happened in light of this trend make sense? Is it gold going past 1,500, or are you buying gold at home? What are you doing?
Well, if I was a good investment strategist, we could have this conversation from my very big yacht. And since I'm not, and I don't have a yacht, I mean, I personally think it's a cause, or it's a basis for defensiveness, substantial defensiveness from an investing point of view. I can't see any scenario where the spread of negative yields, at least when having gotten this wide, is a positive. I mean, I've heard a few people say that sometimes yields are at their lowest point just before the slowdown ends. That's pretty far-fetched in this case. I just see it as an unmitigated negative.
Well, the president actually has been envious of it on Twitter, saying, look, they get to borrow for nothing, or at least get paid even. So what does that mean for incoming ECB President Christine Lagarde in terms of what she's got left to do to stimulate Europe if they do enter recession?
Well, I have a lot of respect for Christine Lagarde, as you and I were just talking about before we went on. She's formidable and extraordinary, but she's taking this job at a very difficult time. Let's look at the data. I mean, at one level, Europe is weakening, not strengthening. At another level, they've fired most of their monetary bullets. So very tough spot she's in. Obviously, Draghi, as he went out, came forth with another round of monetary stimulus, reflecting his concern. So she's very, very good, but she's taking this job at a tough moment.
Roger, you mentioned you might not be a particularly good trader, but you have proved pretty good at building a large global investment bank. And, I'm curious in terms of your dealings with corporate decision makers right now. Given where rates are, one would expect perhaps it's a time to take risk. It's a time to make investment, yet we continue to see business investment actually coming down. What are you seeing? What are you hearing in terms of the willingness of corporations to make decisions, whether they be the big deal or something else that is substantial in terms of capital allocation?
Well, one quick point on CapEx. There's an interesting theory, and I don't have enough data on it, but that the United States economy, for example, just focusing on this country, is fundamentally less capital intensive because of the rise of software and other technology than it used to be. And that this weakness in business investment isn't as negative a sign as historically we would have thought. I'm not smart enough to know precisely how right that is, but I think it's a very provocative theory. In terms of confidence levels, they remain fine. I mean, are they extraordinary? No, but look at the broad environment. You have very high stock prices, just a smidge from an all-time high here. You have record low interest rates. You have robust creditability. I mean, leverage finance levels, in terms of transactions, have returned to the 2007 level, which is surprising. And you have reasonably good business confidence. Those four factors always spell expansionism in terms of the way CEOs and boards of directors think. So I think the confidence levels are fine. Now, we are headed into an election season, and it's probably going to be a very turbulent, tumultuous election season. Whether confidence levels persist at good levels during what will be a very complex period, I don't know. I mean, you have the overlay of impeachment, you have the single-payer debate, you have all kinds
You have the rise of Elizabeth Warren, which seems to be scaring people. I've spoken to people and some of your peers who are saying, if you're a corporation, you want to get something done, think about getting it done sooner rather than later. The prospect of a Warren presidency could be perhaps a break on those kinds of things. Do you agree?
I've heard that kind of thinking many, many times over the election cycles. It's usually not correct, meaning that if you don't do it now, you'll miss the opportunity. It may make sense from simply a conservative point of view, but I don't think historically that would have been correct. And you also have the overlay, of course, of amazing list of geopolitical risks. I mean, the Middle East, Iran, Hong Kong.
Not to mention trade, which we haven't even talked about.
Are you still optimistic on a deal?
I still think that President Trump will not get too close to the election without the appearance, that's an important word, appearance of progress in this. I just don't think, I'm the world's greatest deal maker. I'm going to change this relationship. I don't think he's going to go right into the election saying, in effect, I couldn't do it. So I think there'll be either a resumption of full-blown negotiations, suspension of tariffs, perhaps both, or reduction in tariffs. But there'll be some appearance of progress. Now, What have we really learned here? Have we seen any evidence that China is going to reform what I would call its brand of economic nationalism, its treatment of intellectual property, its approach to technology transfer, its surveillance and state-sponsored hacking and so forth? I think the answer is no.
So why would they want to give them that cover? Let them even have it look like?
Because I don't think it'll cost them anything. I mean, if it's as simple as resumption of full-blown negotiations or some mutual rollback of tariffs, it doesn't cost China anything. So that's why I think they'll...
And it's a hedge on his victory if, in fact, he wins.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Good
and
point.
what about Warren? As a longtime Democrat, but somebody who's obviously been on Wall Street for a long time, does she concern you in terms of her rhetoric?
Well, the most interesting issue to me is the following. Can a Democratic nominee who favors single-payer, decriminalizing the southern border, and banning fracking, to pick three, get elected president on that basis? Or can she tack to the center if she's a nominee and take a more moderate stance? I don't know the answer to question number one. We're in such an unusual political environment, really unprecedented in this country in terms of polarization, that the answer to number one could actually be yes, even though the conventional wisdom is that it's no. I'm just not sure of the answer to that, but I think that is the central question. Obviously, will Trump be reelected or not? By the way, there's a long way to go before Iowa, 4 months. If you looked at who was ahead at this point, for example, in 2008, it was Hillary Clinton, not Obama. 2004, it was Howard Dean, not John Kerry. So, we don't know what's going to happen on February 3rd and beyond that. But she's running quite a brilliant campaign, and she's obviously a very good political athlete.